Newcastle United are set to ditch their cautious transfer approach when the summer window opens, with the club in discussions over 11 Premier League stars. Since the Saudi-led takeover in October 2021, the Magpies have splashed around £250 million on new talent as Eddie Howe sets about moulding a squad capable of eventually battling the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City for a first-ever Premier League crown. Whilst not breaking the bank, Howe's shrewd additions have catapulted the Tynesiders from relegation fodder to a prospective Champions League side. Newcastle hold a 4-point advantage to fifth-place Tottenham Hotspur and also boast a game in hand with just 8 matches remaining. And eager to bridge the gap on the top two further, Howe and his backroom staff are already well underway in their preparations for the summer transfer window. The Telegraph report the Magpies are targeting 4 elite players who will immediately challenge for a starting berth, as well as a host of other additions to boost the squad. The clear shift in strategy comes amidst a string of new sponsors, player sales and the likely additional Champions League money, but the Northeast outfit's ostentatious approach is not dependent on a top 4 finish, as Daily Star Sport takes a look at the linked candidates. James Maddison. England international James Maddison has been firmly on the radar of the Magpies for quite some time and will have just 12 months left on his contract when the transfer window opens in early June. Newcastle's pursuit could be further assisted should Leicester City fail to avoid the drop into the Championship, with Maddison unlikely to want to jeopardise his international future ahead of the Euros. Moises Caicedo. The Brighton midfielder has been a huge part of their continuous rise under Roberto De Zerbi, and the Premier League top dogs are all circling, especially after he submitted a transfer request at the end of January. Arsenal thought they had wrapped up a deal for the Ecuador international, only for the South Coast side to reject a £70 million bid in the closing week of the January window. The Gunners, Manchester United, Liverpool and Newcastle are all expected to battle it out for Caicedo, who has since penned a new 4.5-year deal. When the window reopens, Conor Gallagher. Todd Boehly's £600 million splurge has come with its fair share of question marks, and Chelsea, under scrutiny to fall within financial fair play guidelines, will finally begin selling players to balance their hefty transfer dealings. Offloading homegrown talent is one of the most profitable ways of maximizing FFP margins, and Conor Gallagher, with no contract talks forthcoming, is the most obvious candidate for a summer switch. Newcastle, Brighton and Liverpool are all monitoring his situation. Ivan Toney sitting only behind Harry Kane and Erling Haaland in the Premier League top scorers chart. Ivan Toney is unlikely to be short of potential suitors should he opt to quit the Brentford Community Stadium. The Buzzing Bee has registered 18 goals and 4 assists so far across the 2022-23 campaign, but any summer move does come with a looming ruling over his admission of betting breaches, 232 over a 4-year period. Toney pleaded guilty to the majority of the 262 charges last December and could face a ban of up to 6 months. Kaoru Mitoma. Another standout performer during Brighton's stellar season, Kaoru Mitoma has banked 7 goals and 4 assists for the high-flying Seagulls, who could secure a first season in European football this term. The Japanese international is attracting attention from Newcastle, Arsenal, Man City and Man Utd, with Erik ten Hag already sending scouts to watch him in action ahead of a summer swoop. Calvin Phillips penned a 6-year deal at the Etihad Stadium after joining from boyhood club Leeds United at the end of last season, but the eye-watering £42 million switch hasn't quite gone as planned. Missing the start of the season with a shoulder injury, The midfielder has failed to displace Rodri in the heart of midfield, making just 7 substitute showings in the Premier League. Now aged 27, the England international is in need of regular game time to re-emerge in Gareth Southgate's setup. Jared Bowen, the West Ham star, has been one of the shining lights in yet a bitterly disappointing season for the East Londoners, racking up 5 goals and 3 assists for one of the Premier League's lowest-scoring sides. Now a 4-capped England international, after joining in an £18 million deal from Hull City in January 2020. Bowen had previously emerged as a shock target for Liverpool, but interest from the Merseyside club has since cooled. Scott McTominay. It's no secret that Eddie Howe is keen to add a defensive-minded midfielder to his ranks, and Man Utd's Scott McTominay would certainly fit the bill. The Scotland ace has had to settle for a rotational role following the arrival of Casemiro and, with Christian Eriksen now back in the fold, game time is likely to be limited. As exclusively revealed by Daily Star Sport, Newcastle have been quoted a cool £50 million for McTominay's services, as the midfielder still has 2 years remaining on his lucrative contract. Harvey Barnes, another Leicester star that could be on the move should the Foxes fall into the relegation trap. Harvey Barnes' name is also on Newcastle's shortlist for the summer transfer window. The Burnley-born winger is the club's top scorer in the Premier League this season, with 10 goals in 28 appearances, and a move to the top 4 chasing Magpies might appeal ahead of the European Championships. Declan Rice committed himself to one last season at the London Stadium following the retirement of legendary skipper Mark Noble, and, with 12 months left on his contract, the Hammers look set to cash in this summer. Arsenal, Newcastle and Chelsea are all circling on a potential £100 million deal, and while the Blues had looked favourites, their lack of European football next season could prove costly. Kieran Tierney, as well as a utility wideman and a holding midfielder. Howe is hopeful of adding a first-choice left-back, allowing Dan Burn to occupy a more familiar central role alongside either Sven Botman or Fabian Schär. Due to injuries and the consistent performances of Alexander Zinchenko, Kieran Tierney has made just 5 starts for Arsenal this season, and a move back towards his homeland would inevitably come with increased game time.